Hi, I'm attorney Eric Lewis with Lewis Legal Services in Indianapolis. Today I have an update with the new National Means Test numbers recently released by the Department of Justice that go into effect on November 1st, 2023. If you didn't already know what we're talking about here, the means test is used in bankruptcy to determine eligibility in Chapter 7 and how much you're expected to pay back on your debts in Chapter 13 cases. So in Chapter 7 cases in which the majority of the debt is consumer debt, it helps determine eligibility based on your current monthly income and expenses, and comparing that with state average family income values that vary by household size. In Chapter 13 cases, it also helps determine what we call the commitment period, whether your Chapter 13 repayment plan has to be a minimum of 3 years in duration or 5. And also how much you can reasonably pay back on your debts in the determination of disposable income in a Chapter 13. I've linked below where you can go to find these numbers, not only for Indiana specifically, but all states and jurisdictions. Okay, so let's take a look at these changes.
So, effective November 1st, 2023, for consumer bankruptcy cases, these are the new numbers. What stands out to me with this update is that these are fairly significant decreases to the median family income numbers used in bankruptcy means testing. In fact, this is the first time I believe that the numbers have been adjusted downward, at least in Indiana, since 2019, which saw a small downward adjustment at that time. And before that, the last time the numbers went down from the previous adjustment was 2015. So a downward adjustment is not typical. But if you're an individual filing bankruptcy and your debts are primarily consumer debts and no applicable exception applies to you, such as service in the military, for example, then you have to take a means test analysis. The means test looks at your income for the 6 calendar months prior to the calendar month in which your bankruptcy case is filed. When we average that income and annualize it, the question becomes, where does that average put you in relation to these cutoff numbers? If your average is below these numbers, then there is no further analysis in terms of means testing. If your average is above these numbers, then further means testing is required to look at your specific expenses and judge your ability to pay back your debt, even if just in part. On the expense side of the analysis, the means test uses certain standardized numbers that we call the National Living Allowance, which is based on your household size. So there are these other numbers and expenses, of course, that you can take in a means test for a Chapter 7 or a determination of disposable income in Chapter 13. Numbers that are unique to you, such as a certain amount of what you do for charitable contributions or retirement contributions, what you pay for health insurance and life insurance. But some of the numbers, as you can see here, they're set by law. There can be some deviation for necessary expenses, but this is basically the expectation in terms of monthly amounts. And these numbers apply to all consumer bankruptcy cases, not just in Indiana. So for the means test analysis for eligibility, determination of disposable income in a Chapter 13, or just the general reasonableness of your budget on Schedule J to your bankruptcy paperwork, the court looks at these numbers as a guide, and it basically helps them determine if your deductions from income are both reasonable and necessary. Now, what's interesting to me is that while the numbers for median household income are showing a significant decrease across the board, the means test numbers for typical household expenses aren't changing at all, and those will remain the same numbers that went into effect earlier this year, back in May. So, it's amazing how these numbers have remained stagnant for so long, given the fact that we all know the cost of everything has gone up so much and continues to go up. The Consumer Price Index released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics last month shows us that the cost of living continues to steadily grow due to inflation, and there is no end in sight. So we'll keep an eye on these numbers to see if they start to get closer to reality at some point, but I'm not holding my breath. That's it for today. If you have any questions, please contact my office. If you want to stay up to date on developments in bankruptcy law and other related things, please click subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.